The Exuma Keys Land and Sea Park in the Bahamas is one of the oldest marine protected areas in the world, a man-made sanctuary in the sea. The waters teem with life from the smallest to the largest creature in the food chain, because they are protected from the most efficient predator our oceans have ever known.
Now, where do you...
Well, I reckon if you fish off that point, cast it.
Cast a fly, straight out. My first salmon. My first salmon, also the largest I ever caught. Here we come. On a Welsh river, 23 pounds. I was chuffed to bits to catch that.
Huge fin.
I have never been more proud of myself.
It was the last that anybody caught on that beat for years and years. I don't think anybody's caught one as big as that since. And I was triumphant, but I also have felt guilty about that fish ever since, because it was one of the last of a spring run that now no longer happens. Now, why were fewer of them coming back? Well, I didn't know, but I thought I'd better find out. And that's really what set me off on this journey, to find out what was happening to fish in the sea.
It's Clover, Charles Clover.
I've got some queries. What is the tuna that you serve? Which ocean is it from and how is it caught?
As a journalist, what changed my view of the sea is when I walked into the wrong press conference in The Hague in 1990. And this was the first presentation I'd ever seen about the effect of trawling upon the seabed and upon the creatures that lived on it. And what they said was that trawling with a beam trawler was like ploughing a field 7 times a year. And I'm a farmer's son, and I thought to myself, how many crops would grow if you ploughed that field 7 times a year? And I thought not very much at all. And that changed my whole view of what was going on in the sea.
Our view of the sea has always been that it is huge, beautiful, and inexhaustible. The oceans are the common heritage of all mankind, and for billions of years they have been full of life.
These huge resources, these that we once believed to be renewable, that our whole human history has led us up to now to believe that are renewable, are not renewable anymore because of what we're doing to them.
Row with all your might! What a hardy bunch and what a crunch! It's truly fact, not fable. Cod fillet so fine, golden crisp every time. Comes from the captain's table.
We never used to think about where our fish came from, but in fact, they are wild animals. And we found that out to our cost for the first time in Newfoundland. For centuries, the waters in northern Canada teemed with unbelievable amounts of codfish. Legend had it that you could walk across their backs on the water. The cod was so plentiful, the communities thrived on fishing. As the years went on, technology improved. The boats got bigger and catches increased. The bounty seemed endless. Then, in 1992, the unthinkable happened.
In St. John's tonight, angry fishermen vented their rage. They charged the room where John Crosby was holding a news conference, but security would not let them in.
What had once been the most abundant cod population in the world had been fished out of existence.
I've decided that effective at midnight tonight, there will be a moratorium on harvesting of northern cod until the spring of 1994.
Either we cooperate in addressing it, or there's going to be no fish for anybody. No fish for the Europeans, no fish for the Canadians, and an ecological catastrophe on our hands.
With or without Joe. With or without Joe. And not only me, every fisherman in this island, we're going fishing.
Overnight, 40,000 people lost their jobs.
The cod is gone, and I think within the context of cod, particularly in the Canadian perspective, is that this is a species that has been fished for centuries and centuries. Cod was the reason that people migrated from the UK, from Europe, northern France in particular, to Canada. It was because of cod.
The fishing ban brought the people to the streets. They hoped that one day the cod would return.
The significance didn't drop, didn't dawn on anybody till much later.
Today, there are so few left that they've got endangered status in Canada, and the cod populations have not rebounded despite a moratorium on cod fishing since 1992.
After the collapse of the cod, a new breed of fishery scientists started to investigate what had been happening to all the fish in every ocean of the world. Local catches of fish had been declining almost everywhere. But what puzzled the scientists in 2001 was that the total world catch kept going up and up. It didn't make sense.
The concerns that people had expressed that local stocks were going down everywhere, but that global statistics were showing an increase, that this was a discrepancy.
Daniel Pauly, a leading expert in global fishing, was asked by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization to investigate this mystery.
Daniel Pauly had the brilliance to start examining why, in the face of the evidence that you saw in front of you locally, and in the face of evidence like Newfoundland, that the figures kept going up.
It was when Pauly and his colleagues looked at the reported catches from China that they found their answer.
For every part of the world, the reporting was right, except for Chinese waters.
When Daniel Pauly came to this department and he said, I think they're wrong. I said, what do you mean they're wrong? He said, well, it can't be that China's catching that much.
And they found that actually when you looked at the biological productivity of the sea and what we know about it everywhere else, the Chinese figures could not be right. They were just made up. They were made up by communist officials who only got preferment if the graphs went up. Graphs kept going up because they kept making up the figures. And it was a huge seismic moment.
We concluded that they were so biased upward, so much, that if you corrected for this effect, the world catch would not be increasing, but decreasing.
For the first time in human history, the future of the food the world gets from the sea was in doubt.
Sent a shiver down my spine, because that was the one thing that a lot of people were holding on to. Well, things may be bad, but at least we're catching lots, and we're catching more every year, so it can't be that bad.
From about 1988, we now realize it was on the way down. And we only figured that out in 2002.
All of these things were like warning signals, and they were telling a story in aspects.
This is a story that was going on at the same time as human influences elsewhere, but it's been told late. It's been told we haven't had so much time to do something about it. Now it's on us. And now, in the next maybe 40, 50 years, and that's why this is arguably one of the biggest problems in the world.
For the last 3,000 years, these men and their forefathers have expected giant bluefin tuna to migrate from the Atlantic Ocean to the Mediterranean Sea. And every spring, the fishermen set their trap, an ancient method of fishing known as the almadraba. The almadraba fishermen once used to catch thousands of bluefin. But over the last 10 years, their catches have declined by 80%.
Y hay atunes, pues alegría. Todo el mundo grita, ¡viva la Virgen del Carmen! Euforia, ¿no? Pues ya te he dicho, como te contaba, esto no es tal como cuando yo llegué, ¿no? Hace 22 años. Esto tenía mucha vida, aquí estaba tu mujer, tus hijos. Llega un momento que ya los hijos no vienen porque la situación no está muy bien. Y el momento porque la mujer se tiene que quedar con los hijos. Es una pena que yo tengo 45 años y esté hablando de esto. Porque yo también quisiera que a lo mejor